All right, folks, here it is, the next episode of Cup Full of Metal, right here for you. All right, welcome to the latest episode of Cup Full of Metal, my first from here in beautiful Fort Riley, Kansas. Well, Manhattan, Kansas, right next to Fort Riley, where I'm stationed with the 1st Infantry Division. It's a nice place, so if you need a place to go on vacation, you're out of ideas, check out Manhattan, Kansas. Well, anyways, today I'm going to be talking about minorities in metal. So one of the first things that attracted to me to the heavy metal scene was that it was full of outcasts and weirdos, and they all seemed to come together for a common goal, to listen to good music and just to have a good time. And I think that's awesome. It made me feel like I was a part of a family, part of a tribe. If you see some documentaries on metal that talk about the tribal mentality of the people that listen to it, and I felt like I belonged to something. And in heavy metal world, as of in the last 20 to 25 years, has become very inclusive with minorities, people of all different sexual orientation, encompassing a big, large swath of those that are underrepresented in the music industry. They're represented more and more as the heavy metal scene moves along. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Some that are hard rock musicians, some that are in heavy metal, that I personally still enjoy their music today. I've seen many of them in concert, and that's what I plan on talking about on this episode of Cup Full of Metal. All right, so the first person I'm going to talk about today is Saul Hudson, the famous guitarist, or as most of you probably know him, Slash. He's lead guitarist for Guns N' Roses, and he is phenomenal. And the reason I'm talking about him is because his mother was an African-American actress, and his father was a white man from England. And he represents a growing community in the hard rock and heavy metal world. So he's awesome. He's one of my favorite guitar players. He's one of the reasons I got into and stuck with playing the guitar. If you haven't seen Guns N' Roses on one of their reunion tours, where it's Duff, the bass player, Axl, the singer, and Slash, guitar player, I recommend seeing them. They blew the doors off Nissan Stadium when I saw them back in 2016. It was so great, and it's one of the best concerts I think I've ever seen. So I like Slash. He's one of the reasons that I got into playing guitar and have stuck with it over the years. I like the fact that he plays a Les Paul, and he goes out there and gives it his all every night. He has a great stage presence, and I think that music is so much better because he chose to play a hard rock. All right, so this is Slash. Like, you even need a picture. Everyone knows who this guy is. He's one of the most famous guitar players in the world. He just looks tough. He makes me want to listen to his music. All right, the next person I'm going to talk about is Tom Araya, lead singer and bass player from the band Slayer. One of the pioneers of thrash metal and one of the big four. I love Tom Araya. I've seen him twice in the last 5 years. Of course, he was with one of my favorite bands, Lamb of God. So he's awesome. He's from Chilean descent. He was born in Chile, and he came to America, and he became one of the forefathers of thrash metal, helps pioneer the wonderful thrash sound that we hear, that we associate with San Francisco. You know how they got this Seattle sound for grunge? Well, San Francisco is where that sound originates for thrash metal, because that's where Metallica relocated up to. But I digress. Enough talking about that. But Tom Araya is a great bass player. He's a great singer. He's a positive person in public eye. And he's one of my influences for playing heavy metal bass. So if you don't know anything about Tom Araya and you're not a big fan of Slayer, I recommend listening to them, dig into them. Because just like everybody else, we got this one favorite Slayer album that just grabs us. And mine was Seasons in the Abyss. So give it a listen. This goes out to Tom Araya. So for those of you that didn't know, this is Tom Araya from Slayer. Man, he just looks rough and tough. I wouldn't want to mess with him. He has a really great stage presence. All right, so the next person I'm going to talk about is a woman by the name of Angela Gassel. She was the lead singer of the band Arch Enemy. She did quite a few albums with him, and I think that was the only period of Arch Enemy's music that I actually liked. So I'm not a huge Arch Enemy fan, but I like her in the band. So their album Doomsday Machine is by far their best, especially if you want to give them a try. The song My Apocalypse, which is on that album, phenomenal. She is a female lead singer from Germany, and she is one of the few female lead singers that no one can hold a candle to. She dominates anytime she's on stage, and she's great. I enjoy listening to her when she was the lead singer of Arch Enemy. So if you haven't given them a try, you've never heard of them, go listen to the album Doomsday Machine. All right, so this is Angela Gassel. She looks tough. She walks the walk. She's one of the best metal singers out there. I definitely wouldn't want to get into a fight with her. All right, so the next person I'm going to talk about, his name's Leijon Witherspoon. He's lead singer of the band Sevendust. Now, Sevendust is a really good band, and I accidentally saw them twice in concert. Now, accidentally means I went to these concerts to see other bands, and Seven Dust happened to be one of the opening acts, or the only opening act. Saw them both twice, or saw them once in Indianapolis and saw them up in Detroit, Michigan. So they were really good and they were surprising. So after I saw them the first time, I went and bought their first album. Blew the doors off. And if you've never seen Seven Dust, either on video or seen them live, I recommend them highly. They're a great band, and this guy just dominates the stage. He has the voice that fits this kind of music. He comes with an intensity and power that is unmatched by many lead singers out there. So Leijon Witherspoon, go give them a try. My favorite song by Seven Dust is Prayer. It's off their first album. All right, this is Leijon Witherspoon from Seven Dust. He's awesome. He has a great stage presence. He commands the stage when he's there. If you haven't checked him out, give him a listen. He's everything you want in a metal singer. All right, the next person I'm going to talk about is Pat Smear. Pat Smear is a rhythm guitar player. He was a last-minute member of Nirvana before Kurt Cobain took his own life. He was also one of the original members in the lineup of the Foo Fighters when Dave Grohl put together the Foo Fighters. He's a great guitar player. I love him. He actually left the Foo Fighters and then came back. And when I saw him in 2011 down in Memphis, he was a part of the band. So his mother was African American and Native American, and his father was a Jewish immigrant. So put together, he represents a good sect of minorities in today's music. He's a really good stage presence. He's a really good guitar player. He was a member of the band called The Germs, which was a punk band out in LA. And Dave Grohl talks about The Germs. He was a huge fan of them before Pat Smear ever joined Nirvana. So I recommend, if you've never listened to Foo Fighters, and who hasn't, and if you don't care for Nirvana, maybe check them out again on their Unplugged set that they did for MTV. That's Pat Smear, the guitar player that you don't know who he is on stage. So this is Pat Smear. He looks like your regular run-of-the-mill guitarist, but man, he is awesome. He's a great addition to the Foo Fighters. I love what he brings to the table. I love what he did with Nirvana in that MTV Unplugged concert. Give him a listen. All right, the next person I'm going to talk about is guitarist James Iha. He was one of the founding members of the band Smashing Pumpkins, one of my favorite bands of all time. I've seen him twice in concert, and every time I see him, they never fail to impress. James Iha is a second-generation Japanese-American. He's a great guitar player, and I think he's really underrated for his guitar playing talents. Again, he's one of the founding members of the Smashing Pumpkins, and he represents a section of minorities that aren't very widely represented in hard rock and heavy metal music. So I really appreciate James Iha, all that he does and what he brings to the table. This is James Iha. If you don't know what he looks like, he's awesome. Give the Pumpkins a listen and appreciate him. All right, that about wraps it up for this episode of Cup Full of Metal. If you like this video, give it a like. Put anything you want to in the comment section, and I will try to get around to reading them. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you the next time. I've come to think of America as the little kid in the Clown 2020. So folks, please don't forget to wear your mask. Only you can stop the spread of disease. Thank you.